Fire Radio.
Well, we are up, my man. Danny Dwyer, thanks for joining me again on the show. I did a little research. I do a little looking into my guests, but I really like to have organic conversations.
Yeah.
So you and I, it was a year ago. It was February.
Was it really?
February 11th of 2023 is when your show got produced. And that was the first time you were on the podcast with us. And it was episode 174. And now this is, I think, 321.
Man,
so,
you're cranking them out. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know how
keep up with all of it.
You know why? Because without this, man, I'd be lost. And I'm always seeking something more. And I have made this connection with National Fire Radio and our guests. And I love just talking to guys that are into it. And because I'll be honest with you, I'm not surrounded by it every day. And I know most people aren't. A lot of guys, where their firehouses are, where they ride, where they work, where they volunteer, whatever it is, a lot of guys are not surrounded by it, man. I've left my firehouse sometimes going, hey guys, did we even talk about firefighting today? Like, did we even do anything here? Like, and I think that is a common theme for a lot of places, and something that I picked up on your social media. I love watching my friends. I love seeing what you're doing. I know you have so many things happening, which is super exciting, and I want to hop into all that. But you made a quote the other day. You have you bringing on a lot of new hires, I believe. Yeah. And you put a quote in your social media that really stood out to me. It says, "Your culture is what you make it. Ours started today."
Yep, truly believe it, man. We are doing some.
That.
Man, well, we're and Jeremy, I don't remember if we talked about it last year or not, but we're in a pretty unique position with the city that I work for. We have 7 firehouses, about 160 employees. As of March 5th, when these 12 guys hit the street, we will be not quite 50-50 full-time versus part-time. The bulk of our members all work for other departments around the Metro Atlanta. I think we encompass somewhere around 25 different departments that all work for us part-time.
Wow.
So in the last 18 months, we have taken on 21 captains, which I was proud to be a part of that first hire.
Yes.
We hired 12 more officers, 9 lieutenants, and 3 additional captains to replace myself and 2 others that got promoted. And we just onboarded another 12 firefighters. So we're going to take on another 30, I believe, should be the application process will open July 1, and with hopefully them getting started sometime in October. So
what is it? Just explosive growth in the area, or is the fire department taking on more services or expanding its territory? Why?
Well, it was a fully staffed part-time model for 30 some odd years, and in it's 2024 now, so I think it was in 21. Our current fire chief was brought up from Florida, reorganized the department. The mayor and city council made a promise to the citizens that we were going to go full-time and fully staff this department. And to be honest, to give a lot of credit to the guys before us, I don't know how they were managing. I mean, we're doing 10,000 calls a year, 100,000 population, 7 firehouses. It's not a small department, but they still made it work. Sorry, my dogs are going bananas right now. So
all right. Don't worry about it.
What do you do, right? This is a live recording.
I'm not worried about it.
Yep. So at any rate, they made a commitment to take this department full time, and our command staff operates at a speed that I don't know how they do it. But yeah, man, they're about 120 miles an hour. We're constantly hiring. I mean, I'm doing interviews tomorrow for another 30 part-time guys. So we're constantly, even though we're transitioning to full-time, I think the target dates can be 2027. We still need help part-time. We've got a very high attrition rate. Guys get in, they get financially stable, and they go home to spend more time with their families, which I'm not mad about. But that picture, that was our first 12 full-time firefighters, and we got out, we put some hose on the ground, and it was a great day.
You're building culture, which is
trying.
Interesting. Oh, that's it, right? So it's a new chapter, and with a new chapter. But here's my thing: how do you have to make it as you go, and so you're writing the playbook as you progress.
Correct. And it's a challenge. I will say the one thing that, like you were just talking about, are guys always into it? No. I mean, I got hired with 20 other phenomenal guys.
Right.
We've got a great command staff. There have been a lot of changes in the 18 months, or not even, I guess it's been 18 months since we've been there. There have been a lot of changes, and it's all been really positive, but there's been a lot of movement still. There's still a lot of movement to come on. Hang on one second, Jeremy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to do
them.
this to you. These two are going to drive me insane.
Don't worry about it.
Come here. Come on. This is part of it. I don't have my kids at school, but the dogs are not.
Yeah, and the kids usually behave better than the dogs do.
They absolutely do. She's a lot more to deal with than a 3-year-old black. These things are not. This is going to kill our recording, dude. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're good. No, I love it.
They're still stuck in here, but they're just going to run around for a minute until they figure out that I'm ignoring them.
So we're dog sitting this week for friends of ours, and it's the dog's literally the size of like a coaster. It's this little lap dog. It's old, and it's a pain in the ass, and it gets in your way, and it follows you everywhere. And my wife and kids have always wanted a dog, and I travel so much, and we're always in and out, that I'm like, it's just not fair. I said, maybe down the road we'll get one, if things settle or whatever. And then we have the dog in house, and all of a sudden, 4 days into it, everybody's like, all right, maybe we don't need a dog right now. And I said, I told you guys.
We should have done a test drive with the youngest one we've got. I've got a black lab that's is my firstborn son.
Yeah.
But he is 12, about to be 13, and then we've got a 3-year-old yellow lab that I thought it'd be a great idea to get a puppy for my kid, and then she's a disaster. So
dogs are harder than kids, man.
Yeah, they're challenging sometimes, but
you can always get people to watch your kids. You can always get people to, but to find somebody to dog sit, costs money. Easy. It's a pain in the ass, right? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I'm so tired of my friends leaving parties and stuff like, oh, we got to get home for the dog. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
it's a very close friend of mine. That's his classic move. He's like, I got to go home and feed the dogs. I'm like, come on, dude.
Which in some regards, it's a good way to exit stage left, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
So back to what we were talking about before these 8 legs. I don't even remember where we were at. So,
well, we were talking about the growth. They brought you on, and then from there, just this explosive growth and writing the playbook, keeping up with it.
It is, man. It's a daily challenge, but it's been a lot of fun to get to have a really big hand in. Again, the culture and policy writing. I never thought I would be interested in stuff like that, but to try and get it right the first time and not have, 150 years of policies to redo. I'm done with this. Hang on one second. God, we may have to start this thing over.
This is life. This is life in the podcast land, man.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Come on, outside. There you go. Go, Stella.
Listen to those legs move, man.
Jeez. And they're just staring at me like we're going on. I don't know where this came from. They must have heard you or something.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, man, it's been wide open. The guys that we have that are our command staff, our fire chief, deputy, and the assistants that are or division chiefs, excuse me, are I don't know how they do it. They work. They're probably pushing 60, 70 hours a week because they're all lockstep and they're all committed to the same thing. And it's pretty.
Were they all transplants? Because it seems like a lot of guys came from the outside coming in. No.
Yeah. So yes and no. Our fire chief came from Florida, from North Central Florida, Clearwater area. Our deputy chief has actually been with Roswell. I want to say full time. 16-ish years, but he started another metro department. But he's definitely he and then my partner that I've got on my shift are the two most senior tenured guys. But they all came from somewhere else originally. They started there as part-time employees and then transitioned to full-time over the last several years. So
I think about the balance, right? When you're writing the playbook as you go, and for you said you never thought you'd be writing policy or guidelines or standards, right?
Yeah.
That's got to be exciting, though, because you have a very colorful history to pull from. Retired firefighter out of Atlanta and very busy companies, and then finding your way to the position you're in today. There's got to be this excitement for you to be able to kind of put your name on some of this, right? To kind of craft the narrative.
Yeah, and it's, again, with the support that we've got is just, it's like nothing I've ever, never experienced. And, It's wild, man. I tell you, it's
coming from you that got no support, no respect, and so on. But No, but that's got to be so important to you then
It is.
to have a command staff like that that is empowering their people to make decisions and to really write the way of which they want to operate.
Right. And that was a big deciding factor on taking this promotion back in July. I'm not going to say I'm not that guy that was like, I never wanted to be a chief. That's not true.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a captain for the longest time. And then probably around 2015, 2016, I kind of decided that eventually I would like to transition into this position when I was still downtown. And so, but I wouldn't, because of who I work for currently, I don't know that I would have done it if there was a different administration, or I wouldn't have been as excited about it. But they give us every bit of support that we need. Very, to use Jocko's term, decentralized command. They give us a long leash, and that allows me to extend that same length of leash to our captains and company officers, which is phenomenal. I get excited to go to work again after 25 years. I've been off. I was off Sunday, and I'm ready to go back to work tomorrow. I'm ready to get back at it.
There's something to be said for that. There's so many people
A
that
lot.
are unhappy. They don't enjoy it anymore. They've been beaten down. They're middle. Like I'm a firm believer that we need. There's a lot of guys that like I don't want to promote. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm very happy being a fireman, a backstep fireman, an operator, something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but this is where the disconnect becomes, because when we have a command staff that doesn't want to promote their people and the people don't want to work under them as a manager, then they get the good people coming up the line. And that's the problem, right? All these places complain about all these shitbags as middleman and company bosses, battalion chiefs, all the way up. But the good people don't want to go through the system because they're just getting beaten down.
Right. And that's will we ever run into that? Absolutely. Eventually it's going to happen.
Sure.
You're going to have people that aren't always going to see eye to eye, whether, who's right or wrong. But right now we have literally been able to handpick,
It's awesome.
every person. I think we did a 7-week orientation right when I got promoted, and in that orientation we interviewed, I want to say 36 people for the 12 officers positions that we filled. Assessment center interview, and it was a lengthy, exhausting process. But I literally, and for consistency, I think that's why they did it. I sat in on every single one of them, every single one of these guys, and girls. So it was a really neat. It was a long 2 or 3 weeks we were doing it.
Sure.
But when we got done to check that box and say we just helped pick the next 12 officers for this department is awesome. Not a lot of people get to do that.
What did you find as like the things that stood out to you, the important parts of the process, things that people said or did or experienced? Like, what were some of the things that were like check? And I don't mean this blue card checkbox. I'm just saying checkbox for you to say like, okay, that resonates with me. Okay, I like this. I like that. What stood out to you?
It's all about people. To me, leadership is everything, and who they are. How you can see during the interviews how they were brought up, what type of leadership they had to them that guided their upbringing in the department. I think probably one of the younger fire department wise, fire service wise, was somewhere around the 6-year mark, maybe, all the way up to we had just a newly retired battalion chief from another metro department.
That's cool.
I got onboarded as a lieutenant. We had another battalion chief come out of Cobb County that got onboarded as a captain. So the range was really wide. So to see that all come together and then see that group of people bond during their orientation period was fantastic. But I think that you mentioned blue card. We're transitioning into that model, and so a lot of people had it. Some people didn't, but it wasn't the tactical scenario that stood out to me. It was just a one-on-one conversation after. There was a panel of 4 of us that asked all the same questions, and just to see how people answered all that was awesome. Just to see the difference in leadership styles, and some good and some bad,
I always say you can't teach the person. I can teach the skill. I can teach the ideas. I can't teach you how to be a nice person. I can't teach you how to be a leader. We can give you the tools, but even just the art of sitting down and having conversation, you get a tremendous sense of the individual you're talking to.
Right.
we're losing that part of it. That's why I was curious for you, like what was important in
It's
the process.
because of this.
A
It is
lot of it
because
has.
of
I
these.
think
You
so.
don't, you sit down at dinner, and we haven't done it. And you know, I was listening to a podcast or something recently, read an article, and the company officer has everybody throw their phones in a basket at dinner.
Right.
And you're going to sit down and you're going to talk, but you don't really get to find out, you know, who people are, what's their family dynamic like, where do they live, what do they do for fun, because people are constantly buried in their phones or on computers, and it's a necessary evil, but it's tough to compete with that a lot of times.
Head down instead of head up, man. We used to
Right.
walk around. We used to walk around with our heads up,
Yeah,
right?
man. It's a different world, but again, it's one of those things you just got to work around. And
How old, Danny? If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'll be 45 in
Okay.
about 2.5, 3 weeks.
So
Yeah.
I got 2 years on you, but
Yeah.
we grew up in the same time
Absolutely.
frame, right? So we knew the internet, we didn't know the internet, you know,
Right.
and we played outside, and we weren't, you know, huge on video games, right? And
Yeah, it was so weird, and you know, one of the guys I got promoted with, he's 3 or 4 years younger than me, and just that
there's a difference.
there's a gap right there
Yeah.
between like those late 30s, early 40s, and it's just, and he's taught me a ton. Like the guy is super technology focused and understands how to manipulate all these different things. And I mean, spending 7 weeks with him and another guy, they're both just blow my, you know,
Yeah.
blow me away
Sure.
with technology, and
Sure.
I learned a lot from them, you know. But yeah, it's tough to it's a tough like I said, man, it's a double-edged sword, I guess is the easiest way to put it.
And it's not going anywhere. So we have
No,
to figure it out. We got to figure it out. We have to find ways in which we can bring it in-house and make it work for us, right?
Absolutely.
But I think those core values are important. And I think what's really interesting for you guys in Roswell is that you were brought in basically all your command staff, you were hiring them in. And that is an interesting process because that doesn't really happen in many places. And so you guys had the ability to really craft what you wanted your department to look like and the representatives that now are going to teach that next class of firefighters that are coming in and the class after them. And that's exciting.
It's
Exciting
huge,
times.
man. It's huge. You know, we're gonna we should have, I think April of 25, we're gonna do the first FAO exam or operator. I don't know what we're gonna call it yet. So we'll have 30 positions open with 42 candidates. I mean, that's pretty good odds to make driver, and then we're gonna have to backfill those positions. So
Yeah.
there is there's no slowing down anytime soon. I mean, it's
There's
gonna
got-
be
There's
hair
got to
on
be a
fire.
tremendous commitment then from the city, or is it a district? Is it a city?
It's a city. Yeah, it's a
So
city.
municipal
Mhm.
fire department. Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
mean, there's got to be a tremendous support center in place to allow for this growth.
Oh, all that's happening. We're rebuilding. Let's see, I think 5 firehouses. They passed a
Wow.
$52 million bond last year. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, and a lot. It's taking off, and I don't know how the guys that are you know, our command staff are juggling all of it, but they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean,
lots of support. You got to have a lot of
Yeah.
support.
well, and this is what's exciting about the fire service is like there's a lot of areas in the Northeast where I am. It's impossible to get hired. I mean, it's
Still,
literally
that's
a full-
good.
It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great, right? But you know, you're sitting on a civil service list for 4 or 5 years. You have to have residency, and all of those things then have to either push you to look at other parts of the country. And that's what I was getting at is like that Atlanta area, metro Atlanta area, the explosive growth there is opening a lot of opportunities for exciting opportunities like what you guys have.
Yeah, and you know, it's wild because here, you know, Atlanta, DeKalb County, Cobb County, like the bigger departments in the metro area are having a hard time getting candidates right now. Like they're taking it. I mean, it's just it's a very strange dynamic. So to hear that the Northeast is still like it has been for 25 years is awesome. Because like when I first started testing in the late 90s, there were hundreds and hundreds, if not probably, I think maybe my first round in Atlanta might have been pushing 1,000 people trying to take the test. Now they're giving tests for 30, 40, 50 people at a time. You know, I'm glad to know that it's still alive and well somewhere.
It is. I think some places are struggling a little bit. I think some of the candidates, the quality of the candidates might
Right.
not be where it used to be. New Jersey's a really interesting market here because it's a statewide civil service test. And so
Okay.
residency requires, so you take the statewide test And if cities choose to do the civil service exam, they then don't run a chief's test. If departments want to hire themselves, they can do a chief's test, what they call, and they can
Okay.
circumvent the civil service, and then they can hire based on their parameters. But most departments hire based on residency. So if I want to get hired in Jersey City, New Jersey, or Newark, or
Right.
Patterson, or these busier cities, you have to physically uproot your life, move to that city, have permanent
Wow.
residency. You have to change all your license, your bills. Everything has to be transposed over before you take the civil service test. So
Now,
you
do you
have
have
to,
to maintain residency in that
yes,
city once you get hired?
for a lot of them are 1 calendar year from the date of appointment,
Okay.
and then after 1 year they can move out.
That's
They send
crazy.
investigators out. They'll send the police departments out to investigate
Sure.
your apartments. I know guys that have been bounced because they played the game. They had a mailing address instead of physically staying there.
Yeah.
Neighbors never saw them. Their car was never parked out front.
And they got rolled, huh?
Yeah, and they didn't make it.
Man.
That's the thing. It is a full commitment. But you know what's exciting? We just had a kid lead my fire department. Went down to Fairfax, and he
Wow.
just
Okay.
and he was ready to go. He was ready to go. Fairfax was hiring. He made the cut there, and he was like, I'm moving down there. I'm going." And
Wow.
we're finding more and more guys are starting to venture out. A lot of guys from the New Jersey area couldn't get hired as career firemen, and now they're down in South Carolina. They're in these bustling little cities that are full of fire duty, plenty of opportunities. And what's fun is, especially through our travel and all the exposure we get, I'm seeing a lot of these Northeast values starting to trickle south, and apparatus reflecting, that type of mindset, and the
Yeah.
mindset of for lack of better, aggressive firefighting, like all these things. It's fun to watch
Yeah.
as all of this takes hold. I love
That's
it.
wild. Yeah, that's where we are, and what's getting us. We had several people apply from. God, I remember seeing a guy's application or resume out of like Gila Valley, Arizona, somewhere outside of Phoenix.
It's cool.
We had some outside guys come in, but where we were running into an issue, we don't have the ability to do an in-house certification process yet. Our training staff can't
Got it.
handle it. So we are a pro board. Georgia's a pro board
Yep.
state. So if you don't have pro board specifically to Georgia, and we hire you, and then for some reason you don't you don't pass a test, then we're
Yep.
kind of, so we, right now, I think in the future you'll see some sort of integration with that. But right now, we're having to take people, unless they somehow or another possess a Georgia Pro Board cert, for 1 and 2, and then
Right,
your
right.
Georgia EMT and paramedic. It's kind of tough, but hopefully we'll get there. I think we will, because I think we're going to start attracting a lot of people. It's starting to get out. We're getting a lot
That's
of
exciting.
good PR. Our PIO does a great job keeping us in the limelight and making us look good. So hopefully we'll start getting it out there.
Well, and the other thing too is guys are retiring earlier and earlier too. I mean, I know a lot of guys that are retiring in their mid 40s now. They got picked up at 20, 21, 22
Yeah,
years
yeah.
old. They can start a whole new world, man. Pull the pension from the Northeast, move south, and pick up another fire job,
Yep.
right? And you
Yep.
guys then get the opportunity to absorb all that experience that they bring forward, and that's exciting, because you even said you picked up a battalion chief that is now a lieutenant, right? And all these
Yeah.
different things. That's fun.
We've got a lot of really talented guys and girls. I got to make sure I say that correctly. But
Sure.
she's going to probably punch me when she sees me next shift. But we got a lot of good people across all, from all different walks, all different departments around the Atlanta area, and a lot of experience that's gonna carry us through for a long time. Because, like you said, even the two BCs that retired that just came to us are in their late 40s, maybe early 50s. So we got at least 15 years if they want to stay. We got a good ways. And the beauty of it is we're not so busy that they're going to get crushed and want to get out of there. Like I can do another 15 years, probably stand on my head. It's not bad. It is not bad.
Do this 4 years. I mean, you told me right before we hit record, it's been 4 years since you left Atlanta. And you
Yeah.
left based on some things that you went through there, and knowing your story from our last episode. But did you ever see yourself in this position today? I mean, this is
No. I mean, I went from cleaning toilets to riding battalion vehicle in the span of like 9 months. I don't know how that happened. When the position came open, I talked to a couple friends of mine that were my mentors and battalion chiefs and shift commander downtown. And I'm like, I don't, I was 43, 44 or whatever. And I'm like, man, I still feel like I got a couple of years in me to, to
Yeah.
stay on the rigs and help. And they're like, man, just take the test. No stress. Best case scenario, you get it. Worst case scenario, you get it. But there was no, I did it. I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't put any effort into it. I absolutely did, and I prepared, but there was no stress really involved. And I still, to this day, am shocked that they gave me a shot. I'm thankful, to have that full transition in that amount of time, was just, I mean, it's been wild. It's been a wild ride, to say the least, and I'm very thankful. I did not think I was going to enjoy the position as much as I have. Again, we're not super busy, but that gives me a lot of time just to build relationships with the crews and get out to know them and put some hose on the ground, have fun with them, run a few calls here and there, and it's been great, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Is it- The forethought of promoting up, right? I mean, I'm sure you thought years ago you'd be retiring out of Atlanta and enjoying life. Right after that, okay, great, life's good, and real estate, whatever you're into, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you go through all these different things. You find yourself leaving there shorter than you expected. But where you are today, man, that's fun, right? If you really think about it, what you get to do today on the level that you're doing, you're influencing a lot of people
Yeah.
and influencing the build of a newer department. That is got to be, I think, rather fulfilling for you.
It is, and a lot of people, a lot of people have asked what it was like.
Mm,
I wouldn't, for all that was tough. Like the
sure.
whole thing was hard, and it wasn't an easy decision that was taken lightly by my wife and I. Um, but it was best for the family, and so we made the move. Whatever. Then to have this job opportunity pop up in
Yeah.
July of 22, and then to turn around and get promoted in July of 23, it just kind of it's I don't have words to explain it. I really don't. Had everything not happened in Atlanta, I would not be here. I wouldn't be
Right.
sitting in this position talking to you. I wouldn't be working for Roswell. I couldn't have afforded to leave. I've got guys that still work downtown that are lieutenants and captains that would love to come up here and come to work, but they can't take the financial hit,
Right.
and lose a pension. So everything happens for a reason, man. You
It
stick it
does.
out. You stick it out. And I was listening to David Rhodes' podcast. He was on the scrap last
Yeah.
night, 2 nights ago. And for all the stuff that he went through, he just stuck it out, and it just ends up you just got to grind through it and persevere.
He's an
And
Atlanta guy too, right? Did
yeah,
he come from?
yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
sure
right.
was. Yeah, he was one
That's
of my
right.
he was one of my battalion chiefs. I don't think I ever worked for him directly, but we were on the same shift for
Okay.
a lot of years on C shift downtown, and so I think he was in the 3rd Battalion, which was Midtown, and I was a little bit in Southeast Atlanta at the time. Separate battalions, we ran a lot of fires together. He's a great
Right.
friend, a mentor, a buddy,
Good.
and so he's just,
You
man,
know,
he's got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge to pass down to guys.
I've never met him.
He's great, man. If you can ever get him on here, man,
Yeah.
he does it. He's great to listen to. He's got a lot of knowledge to send down.
Oh,
A
for sure. I
lot,
mean, I know I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the guy, and
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but great things about him. I just never had the opportunity to meet him. Our paths haven't crossed, but I hope they do. I hope they
Yeah,
do for
for
sure.
sure.
So no, that's cool. I mean, it's just such a small world. But having you on though, I have to be honest. Like when I first asked you to join me, a
Yeah.
year ago, there was some hesitation in reaching out to you too. I was like, oh, this guy, he went through all this shit in Atlanta, and I'm like, what's he doesn't, he's not. I'm like, I gotta reach out to him because I enjoyed you talking about it in some other arenas and stuff, and I really thought the story was rather interesting. But I also wanted to go after the whole other side of it. Everybody
Mhm.
focused on that night there, but it was the aftermath that really, took its toll, and you had a lot to
Yeah.
deal with there, and so I really appreciated you coming on last year with us on the first episode, and that we did together, and just
Yeah.
really got that story. But and from there it was like, man, I saw you posting some things on social, and I was like, oh, I gotta get him back on, man. It's just a fun conversation.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool. But I agree with you. Life is funny, and it provides incredible opportunities. And I think that's the most amazing thing about the fire service is like at the snap of a fingers, things can change, and things can change very quickly.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Rhodey was talking about. He had some interesting experiences downtown, and I won't throw that out there. I'll let him explain it to you because they're his stories to tell.
Yeah,
But the underlying thing with all of it is just, no matter what, he had some curveballs thrown at him. I've had curveballs thrown at me. I'm
sure,
sure you have. It's
sure.
how you stand up, dust your knees off, and keep driving forward. He had some very interesting experiences that I had forgotten about, just little stuff going back years, and it's kind of all that, when you, at the end of the day, all that shapes who you are and shapes how
Yeah.
you're going to deal with things moving forward. And I hope that, the experiences that I had, both positive and negative, I get to translate and do better or give it better to our people.
And
Um,
being in that position though, man, the ability to influence and to guide and to experience matters.
right.
Experience matters. And
And
go ahead. Go
And
ahead.
that, no, that's what was so tough, man. Because like I was telling a buddy of mine, we had a good topside vent job last year before this battalion process started. And I hadn't been on the roof in a while, and so it was good to get up there. Had a not, I mean, just a picture perfect. And I was telling my buddy, I'm like, man, I miss this, man. I want to be up, but I want to be there to show the guys. Everybody gave me, I'll out myself here. So the guy that was riding on the back step of the truck that day, we pulled up and it needed a vent, and so my buddy's a captain on the first due engine. I'm like, hey man, how about some topside vent? He's like, yeah, go for it. So I look at the dude as we get off. I'm like, you ever been on the roof before? And he goes, nope. And I was like, you grab the ladder, I got the saws. And everybody gave me a hard time. Like, I don't have time to teach a class, okay, when we're standing on the roof of this house. So anyway, I got it was personal too. I wanted to be on the saws. It's been a minute. So, but at any rate, when I got done, I was telling my buddy, he goes, Danny, at the end of the day, he's like, man, you're cutting plywood, dude. You can teach anybody to cut plywood. He goes, you need to be on the ground making sure these guys are doing it the right way. And that was hard because I still feel like I can do it. But where we are as an organization with we've got a lot of very young officers, young fire service career in general. We've got a couple captains probably with less than 10 years of fire service experience, and but they're phenomenal. But they need to be, I had somebody show me. Now it's my time to show them, and at the end of the day, like you said, man, we're both in our late 40s. I step off the rig and hit a curb wrong. That could end my career right now, so it's kind of like maybe it's a little bit safer from an F-250, and
Paper cuts
I
are always
know,
favorite.
man, getting carpal tunnel from typing, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just it was a weird shift in my career and my thought process. Um, but I'll brag. We've got a phenomenal group of officers on our shift, and we're about to have 4 more firefighters that we handpicked. We did a little bit of trading. We had a draft session a couple weeks ago and got to pick who we wanted on our shift. And I've got, it just we're stacked, man. And I'm very thankful for who we've got. I'm thankful for the part-time guys that we've got. We've got some good ghetto firemen from all over the metro area DeKalb County, I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yeah.
I'd say the bulk of our shift, at least on our shift, we've got all firefighters and officers from DeKalb, and those guys go to work, man.
Yeah, a little bit of work there.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. But that's who you want, man. Like I don't
Agree.
have any concerns, man. When they're with us and the shit goes off, I have no worries.
I think that's a big part of it, right? As you transition from the front right seat to your own buggy, right, or vehicle,
Hmm.
whatever you guys call them down in Georgia, right? Like, there is a different. I mean, not only does the mindset and the job change, but
Hmm.
you have to have this confidence in the structure you have in place to know that your people are capable of doing the job or exceeding the expectations of what the department expects from them, right? And that's what we need. And so that is where the formula works really well for you. And I think this is where a lot of departments struggle, is that they don't let their people work. The way you're talking right now, you're like, hey, I got rock stars. These guys are dialed.
Hmm.
I know when we're going to fires, I know when we're going to work, they're going to get the job done and they're going to outperform my expectations, right?
Hmm.
Am I wrong with
Absolutely.
that?
No,
That's
100%.
right?
And I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine that I've known. We've probably known each other 5, 6, 7 years. We both got hired in Roswell together. He's one of our captains on our shift, and I was like, dude, I have no worries. with you. Like, are you serious? And I'm like, no, I have no concerns. Am I going to be a little, when you have those nasty, 1-story frame chugging, and I'm sending a couple buddies in to push
Sure.
down a hallway? Am I
Sure.
going to be a little apprehensive? Yes. But I know that they're capable. I know what they can do, and I know that if they get there and tell me they can't do it for whatever, like you've got to instill trust, but that trust gets built, I think, from those conversations, the not being on the phone and going by and seeing the guys and talking about tactics and doing a little bit of training and getting hose on the ground with them. I know what we're capable of, and again, because of the dynamic that we have, the day-to-day, just like company level training isn't what it needs to be, because we've got the bulk of our crews right now are coming off another 24.
Yeah.
And one of the things that when I got there, I'm like, man, my day, what I want to do with my shift totally hinges on the rest of the guys night before. If they got beat up and they come in all blown out from being up a couple times after midnight, going to fires, I'm not going to run them ragged. I'll switch some stuff around, and if we got to get out and twist some hydrants or go do pre-plans or whatever, but I'm not going to make them get out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and pull hose. I'm the only one at the time. I was the only one that slept in his own bed the night before. So that changes everything. Now the pendulum starting to swing a little bit, and things are going to have to start changing. We've got new guys that come from all different departments. We run a modified Minuteman on our engines off the pre-connects. We've got triple layer guys. We've got guys that will fight you to the death to have a flat load run, but that's what we run. And that's what you're going to be a master at. We are going to master the basics to make sure they pay us really good money to be exceptional at what we do. And so you got to get out and pull hose, and you got to stretch, and you got to get ladders on the ground, and make sure you are still, you're dialed in on the basics, man. That's
Just of the recipe that goes into this, right?
Right.
Like, it's
100%.
you're not going to flip a switch overnight and change the way it's been. You respect the guys that are coming in and what they're dealing with, right? And so on. But you have to be, though, super, and that's what, like, finding that balance, right? Is like, you have to be protective of the institution that you're creating and this culture that you're creating, right?
And
You got to be
love
super
it.
protective.
I'm protective of it. I fly the flag. I wear it proudly. I'm proud to work there. I'm proud of who I work for and who I work with.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there are, and I might get some strange looks about this, but there are a lot of assumptions there. I assume because of, I don't want to beat these guys up. If they don't come to work, if the guys that are part-time members of the department don't show up, I don't have a job. I need them to want to come back. So you got to be careful on when and how you do your training.
Yes.
You don't want to run those guys ragged, or they're not going to come back. They'll go find something else to do. But I didn't sleep good sometimes because I'm like, man, I know, so-and-so, I know these guys run flat lays. Is he going to be able to get this Minuteman off at 2 o'clock in the morning and make sure? And that's a challenge, man. If you're not getting the hose off until the door can be done, getting it reloaded right, repacked correctly. And that's one of the things I know well. So it's like, I made a lot of assumptions, which I didn't sleep well sometimes, knowing I'm like, man, we really should have got out and done a little bit more today. But I had 3 guys that, in a double company, I had 3 on the engine, 3 on the truck, and 2 on an ALS rescue. A lot of those guys came in from South DeKalb the night before, and they're crushed. I'm not going to make them get, so it's kind of like, it was an uncomfortable, so you got to just kind of, a lot of hoping and praying, but now,
Yeah.
Now things are starting to change a little bit, and we're going to have to adjust how we're doing it, because we are going to slowly start to have more full-time people in that need to get out. And I don't care, man. We went out, we pulled bundles. We have some pre-packaged high-rise packs we put on the ground 2 weeks ago. And we were just messing with them. 3 of us had just got done working out. We all 3 got hired together. We're looking at the hose. We're like, how is this? Let's pull this off. And myself and 2 captains are out back at 5 o'clock in the evening, stretching, trying to remember exactly how do we load this thing back?
Right.
Yeah. But you got to do it. And at least, there are strengths and weaknesses across the board for everybody, but like that, the basic stuff, like we've got to be really, really good at. I don't want to see because I know it can be done better. And I know that, are we ever going to get it 100% perfect? Probably not, but we're going to have to be as close as we can get to perfection with that.
The department's evolving, right?
Right.
And as the department evolves, you have to evolve with it. And
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I think a lot of people get stuck in the ruts of, well, this is the way we do it, this is the way we've done it. Yeah, but the department's changing. The look of the department, we're bringing in more full-time people that are going to need to know or have a better idea. And you're 100% right with assumptions. Like, I've never really heard anybody talk about that before in all the podcasts I've done. I'm really happy that you did, because we all assume so many different things until the shit hits the fan on the fireground and go, guess we should have done better at that, right?
And I'll be honest with you, I'm my own biggest critic, right?
I agree, yes.
When I was a part-time employee at another department, you were lucky if I checked off, and this is, I'll tell you right now, I'm sorry for this, but like, I checked my BA off, I set my stuff on the floor, I didn't look at anything else. I was coming off another 24 downtown, I was tired.
Yes.
All of these guys are here. Yes. Do they want to be there? 100%. Most of them do, but they're all there for financial reasons. They have to have a second job.
That's right.
We pay pretty well.
Yeah.
But I can assure you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, they would trade me for their family any day of the week, and they should. Right. Like we had one of my best friends. I helped him get on the fire department almost 20 years ago. He's a truck driver in DeKalb. Like, great guy. He was my truck driver in Roswell. He left about 5 months ago, and I was like, you know what, man? I hate to see you go, but like, go home.
Good.
Your son's 12. You don't get this time back, man.
That's right.
Like, if I can get you to a point where you're financially stable and you can go home and not have to work 48s anymore, go. I don't want to see you go, but like, that to me is way more important.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult balance, but with that, when he leaves, we get a couple new guys in, get them hopefully to a point where they can do the same thing and they get out of there. But at the end of the day, firemen are generally speaking pretty bad at finances, myself included. Like, we all need second jobs. Yeah. You make more money, you spend more money, and then you're in this evil cycle for hopefully not too long. But that's always how it ends up happening,
Yeah. But I think you're 100% accurate with all of that, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with what you said with, hey man, I just had a rough 24. I'm coming in. I'm here because I need the money. I'm protective of it. That gong goes off. I'm going to do the job to the very best of my abilities, and we'll do everything we need to do. But all those other things, I'm just going to kind of take a half a step back. Right. Yeah. And I get that. It's just an interesting query that you're going to be dealing with as your department is starting to scale and you're starting to bring in more full-time people. That type of mindset is going to shift a little bit. And it's just guys like you have to be very protective of the old while you transition to the new and find ways in which you do that. And there are people that cannot do that. And this is the salesman. Like, we need salesmen in the fire service. We need the guy in the firehouse that's the go-to guy for everything. Or you need him to go talk to this person. Send him. Send Danny. He's going to go take care of this. He knows how to play the game. That's what we need. We need those people, dynamic leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of my buddies, he was a member with us for a long time, was one of my bosses downtown. When this transition was happening, he hit the nail on the head. He's like, it's like your parents are getting divorced. Because you have this was a, and not in a negative term, this was a boys club for a long time. Right. These guys all worked part-time, and you had, man, some of the stories I hear, and I didn't work part-time for the organization before, but you had, battalion chiefs in Atlanta driving. You had guys that were, and half of them were fighting. They'd stick a new guy up on the seat, and they got an assistant chief riding tailboard, so, and it unfortunately, I have a lot of respect for all those guys that came before us, and I want to honor that. And we've got about almost an 80-year tradition of the fire department in that city, but things are changing.
Of course.
But I can assure you one thing that we are all committed to is hanging on to that tradition and what they started, but making sure that we honor them by taking this thing to the next level and making sure that we're the best that we can be. We're surrounded by 4 other cities in the north part of the county that we work in. They're all, we're the largest. We've got about 4 to 5 stations in the other department. So I want to do it better than the rest of them. Sorry, I'm that guy. I'm competitive, but I want to be the best in our area. And I want to know that, in the very near future, probably in the next 2 years, we're going to be dropping city boundaries and it's going to be AVL dispatch. So in the east side of the city where I work, you're going to have very potentially you'll have three different jurisdictions running together on an apartment fire, house fire. I want them to know when a Roswell engine shows up
That's
that we're
it.
coming to work and we got some
Game
heavy
time.
hitters on there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're gonna work and we're gonna do it better and faster and cleaner than everybody else. And
Yeah.
is that a lofty goal? Sure, but I mean, why not?
It's
You know,
attainable. You can have it.
absolutely,
You can
absolutely.
absolutely
And
have it. Yeah.
we had a when I got promoted in Atlanta, I got kind of sent to it was a, I guess you could say it was a punishment station. It's a very, very, very busy single engine, kind of sits out by itself. You don't have a lot of help around you, and you get, I mean, worked over at night. It was rough.
Right.
And it wasn't my first choice. When I saw the transfer order come out, it was contrary to the way that Atlanta mostly does things. Usually you got about 3 days to pack your stuff and head off to your next assignment. They put this one out about 30 days early. And I remember I'm like, I'm not taking it. I'm not going. I don't want to go out there. I was trying to get a break off the engine that I was on. And this one was, I say busier by 500 calls a year, but it was enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going out there. Nope, nope, nope. And then finally, after a few days, like, you know what? I'm going to go out there and I want them to know when they see that big number 9 on the side of the truck coming down the road that we are coming to work. And you have to change the dynamic. You have to change people's, because everybody was told that that was a punishment station. So like the guys that were firefighters that were assigned there, that's all they knew. I mean, they were good dudes, but it's like, how does it make you feel any kind of company pride if you know that why you were, and they weren't put there for that reason. They were a number, they were dropped in a hat and that's where they landed. But I wanted to change the thought process that when we were going, we were coming to work. And when you saw us coming down the street and you saw us coming to help, if we were second or third due, we were coming to work. And you just kind of got to change the thought process with that. So
I love those companies that are always going to work, and you go, how do those guys get? They're like cutting the line, and they go,
yeah,
of course they are, because the people believe in their skill sets.
yeah,
It's a solid company. They're going to go to work. They're not going to be assigned
yep.
RIT, or they're not going to be assigned, the floor below. Like
Hmm.
they're not
And
getting those
you know
jobs.
what, if we are, we're going to open that. If it like
Well,
Rit's a very
yes,
functional company,
yes,
with Atlanta, and we're still figuring that whole thing out with us, but we're going to open it up. I'm going to Swiss cheese the house. I'm going to open up, I'm going to pop doors.
good,
We're going to get ladders up. We're going to
good.
do whatever we got to do to get it opened up. But yeah, so it's, again, it's your mindset and how you look at things is huge.
Setting the bar high. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what's cool about the position you're in now, right? You have the job is busy, but it's not as busy that you're allowed to sit there and really think about the processes and then put this into perspective about how you're going to build this department. It's a
Hmm.
very exciting time. I mean, not everybody gets to be a part of the framework, especially when it's new and fresh and
Right.
idea driven. I love that.
And it's the beauty of it too is as long as, and he hasn't said this in so many words, but our deputy chief, basically, as long as the 6 battalion chiefs are on board with it, if there's any initiatives we want to pump out, then we got a text group with all of us and we send it out like, hey, are you guys good with this? Yep, I sent something out Friday night or maybe it's Saturday night. And it's something simple, but like when I first got to Atlanta, my first cat that I had, phenomenal guy. He handed me like 6 policies day one. It was reporting for duty, how to call in sick, just basic stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? We got brand new guys hitting the street Monday morning. I know they've gone over this before in their orientation. They just were in orientation for 6 weeks or so. I know they've gone over it. They're going to go over it again because again, we're going to try and remove some of the assumptions. The
Yes.
captains that they're going to are going to assume that they went over it and went over the high points and stuff like that. But I was like, I would want to know better. I mean, what if something happens to Buddy that started yesterday and he's on his way to work tomorrow? They're doing 410s this week with us before they hit the street for their 24s next week. What if the guy blows a tire? Who's he call? So it's just little stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, give these out to your guys, and then their first shift next week, give them a quiz on it.
Mhm.
But nothing crazy. I'm not. But I'm sure I got some. I have no doubt that people wrinkled their noses at it. I'm like, that's all right. I'm okay with that. People have made funny faces at me for a long time. I'm not worried about it. But I want to know that, like, I can assure you now that these guys have been given the policies, and
Well, we hold people accountable if we've never taught them.
right. And again, this is something new. This is our first group. We've never had to do this before.
Yeah.
A lot of our officers were never officers before coming to work here. A lot of them didn't have the gym trainers that I had that was my first captain to
Mhm.
hand me that. Like, I got lucky. I'm not, I mean,
Yes.
so a lot of them, and I say that generally speaking, a lot of them came from great organizations with great leaders, and I know that. But my point of it is like, let's cut out the assumption here and let's just make sure that we know that these guys have this. They're prepared for it. They know they've got a week to study. And then you guys, I'm not going to tell them how to give them a quiz. I'm not going to tell them 5 questions or 15
Right.
questions. I don't care. It's 4 policies for
Right.
like 20 pages. Come on.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
nothing major, but it's just a little project. And at the end of the day, it's going to remove a lot of doubt. And then you're not knocking one of them over the head next week going, why didn't you call in sick? Why'd you call this guy instead of calling this guy if you had a blown tire or something on the way
Right.
into work,
Yeah.
So, but again,
Yeah. That's good
it's
framework.
just it's getting to make little incremental changes that they may seem silly, but to me, it's like having the again the long leash to be able to do that and to pitch stuff up the chain and then go, yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Yeah, but
You know,
those little incremental, I mean, you get 4 downs in football, right? So those, that 1 yard, that 2 yard
there you
drive,
go.
like they add up. And what they do is they build confidence in your line and in your running backs and your quarterback as they're gaining yardage, right? So
Yep.
like it's super important to give the ability, even on small little wins or small little changes that take effect and they promote betterment. It's a
Yeah.
win. And it
And I
fuels
got
you
it.
to want to do more.
Right. I asked last week, I was like, hey man, we've got two of our engines are the same year. They're sister rigs. And they've got these again the high rise bundles that they
Mhm.
sit on the sideboard of the engine on the officer's side. They're out
Right.
in the weather and they've got the old school like seatbelt strap backboard
Right.
straps bundling them together. I'm like, man, these things sit outside. They're rusted. They get grime in the buckles. And we took them off. I'm like, we got to do better than this. So I just sent an email up. I was like, hey, look, I want to request 12 straps, the Fire by Trade 36
Oh
inch.
God, I just got mine in.
Oh,
I just ordered 12 of them the other day.
right.
They're
And I'm
awesome.
like, yeah. And I'm like, man, they're
Mhm.
$14 a piece. And we're
I
literally
know they're
like,
so cheap.
the
I
budget.
thought they were cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, the budget went in on the 20th. They're like, this wasn't budgeted for this year. And I'm like, they're $14, fellas. Like, can we do? And they did. They approved them. I got an order. I sent Brian Brush a text
Yeah.
message on Facebook. I'm like, hey, man, are they back in? He sent me one last night. The order was placed about 2 hours ago. And
Yep.
it's little stuff. I got them for the first two engines, and then we're going to see how we want to bundle everything together after that. Maybe we can order some more. But it's just that little one. And my buddy and I were talking about it. He's one of our captains on my shift, and he's like, I sent him a text, and I was like, boom, screenshot, they're ordered. And
Yeah.
it's just that, and if it makes the guys happy and just getting some good equipment that's not really expensive, that's going to make the job a little bit easier is awesome. Just being able to have that to go up and say, hey man, can we order 12 straps, the really good Velcro straps that are $14 a piece instead of these backboard straps? Why not?
We had these jankety straps, man, and they were awful. And even when we went to change them out with the Velcro 36-inch straps, the guys were wrestling with the buckles. They couldn't even get them
Right,
off.
right.
I was like, all right, I feel better about this. Yeah.
And the design, I guess it was from Sutphen, which is our rigs, but like they're held onto the rig with seatbelt straps too. And
Right.
the other day we're looking, I'm like, which one pops the bundle, which one pops it
Yeah.
off the rig?
Right.
And again, it's not my engine, so I'm not familiar with it, but we figured it
Yep.
out. I'm like, all right, we got to fix this and see if we. And again, it's something simple,
Mm-hmm.
So that's being able to have that and have that support. It was an email up, an email down, boom,
That's it.
done. Yeah, we got
Done.
it. 5
Yeah,
4
and it
days,
makes
4 or 5
a
days.
world of difference. Something stupid like that makes a world of difference. It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's next for you, man? As we start to wind down here in the conversation, what's next? I mean, you got so much in front of you. It's exciting.
Yeah, man, I don't know what's next other than to get better at what I'm doing.
I love it.
And
I mean, you're finding your way in that Battalion Chief spot. That's got to be a little bit different for you. You got to be missing the engine a little bit.
I do, man. I
yeah.
definitely, and one of my buddies, when I told him I got promoted last year, he's like, "Get ready to not have any friends." What the hell does that mean? So like, that was he had a valid point, and I see where he gets it sometimes. He's like, I'm just kidding, it's not that bad, but you're homeless. Like,
Yeah.
I rent a room from a captain the way that I see it. That's his
Yeah.
house. I don't have any say so in what goes on there. I have a really cool office that's where I get excited about now. I got an office with some, but like I stay up there, I try and let the guys have their firehouse, and no matter, and I've known half these guys for well over 20 years, but regardless, when I'm sitting in the room, they're not going to be as laid
Yeah.
back as they want to be, and that's fine. And I try, I eat breakfast and dinner with them as much as I can. Dinner's always, breakfast just depends on what my schedule looks like for the day. And then again, just try and make some, behind the curtain changes for them that I don't need my name strapped to. I don't, I'm doing it for them, for us, and
That's a big
so
one.
yeah, man, it's been an interesting 7 or 8 months, and the biggest change that I never thought I'd see. Part of the deal when I got into the spot, they're like, hey, you got to finish your degree up, and I was like, man, because I took classes a couple of years ago. I thought it was a good idea when my daughter was about 9 months old. I'm like, I'm going to enroll in college classes,
That's
and
smart.
but man, I have been cranking those out, and I got to give a shout. I don't know if I've got his number, but I don't know if he knows this or not. Gabe and Jemmy, I remember
Yeah.
meeting him. It was in 14 at FDIC. It was 10 years ago. The first and only time I've been up there, and we became friends on social media and stuff. I'm like, this dude is a gangster, just salty fireman. He was still a
Yeah.
fireman at the time. He hadn't made captain yet, and I'm like, this guy's. I watched him like taking pictures. Got his master's. Now he's getting his PhD, and there's been this long standing, you and I come from the same generation of people like, this is still a blue collar job. Do I need a
Yeah.
degree to do this? Absolutely not. Does it help? 100%. What I've figured out in the last 7 months of taking classes is it's not, you're definitely gaining some knowledge across all. I've never been in a prevention bureau in the like fire marshal's office kind of stuff. So I've had to take classes on that and engineering for alarm systems and stuff. And so yeah, I definitely picked up some nuggets there, but to me, it's like the biggest project management project
Yeah.
I've ever had. So it's like
Yeah.
if you can juggle your wife, two jobs, taking some college classes, like that is helping me figure out my down the road. So I just signed up for my last two for my associates, which will, fulfill my obligation to the city, but I've only got 8 left, so I'm like, I'm just going to keep cranking and just finish up
Good
my
for you.
bachelor's and just get it
Good for
done.
you.
They're
Yeah.
they're paying for it. There's no reason not to. And the crazy thing, even myself, like I never thought I would ever be in this position, but I've pushed some of the other guys that we got hired with. I'm like, guys, just sign up. The
I love
hardest
it.
thing you have to do is scan all your certificates in. So we've all got our I Love Me books that are this thick,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
Scan all that crap in, send it all to college.
Love me.
They will tell you and say, hey, here's what you got to have. The city gives us over $5,000 a year in tuition reimbursement.
Great.
Tell me why you can't.
Yeah.
Please tell me why you can't, because we are not busy. And I say that all the time. I'm like, I don't want to hear anybody say they got beat up last night. Like, we don't run a lot of calls. So do something with your time besides, sitting on your rear end and watching TV and, a little bit of training here and there. They can all do it. If,
Yeah.
if I can do it, and like I said, I got to give a lot of credit to Gabe.
It's good.
Because that was a guy that I was like, okay, that dude is just as good of a fireman, if not better than anybody I've ever run across, that just proved that you can be good at both. You can have the education and you can have the street smarts and abilities. And hopefully I'll bump into him. I don't know if he's still making the rounds or not, but I'll be up in Indy in a couple weeks and hopefully bump into him and we'll see, but I got to give that.
To see you as well, man. So
I'll look for you. Don't you worry. I've got a
we'll get
list.
there.
I was thinking about it this morning.
It'll be good.
And I was like, I got a list of, I want to go see Jason Marcella, with Rekindled
Sure.
Lids. We've talked 100 times. He's done a couple helmets for me, and I want to go shake his hand and yours.
We're gonna
and,
be
there's-
right there. So we actually have a booth this year. We're gonna be in Firefighters Row. So we'll be
Okay,
right
good.
between BA Shields and Fast Rescue, and Jason's there with Rekindled and a bunch of other firefighter-owned businesses. So we'll be right
Good.
there, and then we're doing some
Good,
projects there too. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man, and that's where I get to recharge and I get the all the work that we do there. But man, I just love seeing guys that I've never met, like you and I have never met.
Yeah, it's going to be
We've never
cool,
crossed
man.
paths, Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go there in 2014. I was a brand new lieutenant and went and took some great classes. And then Eric Wheaton and I
Sure.
became friends a couple years ago. We taught
Mm-hmm.
together in Pensacola. And he hit me up in August and was like, hey, man, what are you doing in April? My class just got approved. I'm like, no, what do you want? I'm not going to, like, what do you want me to do? And I'm very blessed and thankful he thought of me. And so, yeah, I'm going to meet those guys up in Indy, and we're teaching, Monday, Tuesday, hands-on, and then I've got to scoot back. I think I'm leaving Thursday afternoon. I got to get back here. But Wednesday will be a busy day. I got a lot of people I want to go shake hands with, so it should be a lot of fun.
Good. We'll be there all week, so I hope our paths cross, man. I'd love to shake your hand, maybe even do a cold one or two.
We can do that. I can assure you.
That'll be fun. Good. Well, my man, thank you. Thanks for joining me today, man. It's always fun catching up, and it's just like I'm starting to like go back through the list of guys that have been on the show, and I love like capturing their story again. Like, where have you been since we last talked? And for you, quite a change, man. Quite a change.
It's been a wild ride. My whole career has been really cool. I got a lot of opportunities. I got to work in a lot of great companies. I wouldn't trade a second. Everybody asks about, everything that happened in Atlanta. And if you came to me at 19 years old and said, hey man, hey kid, this is what you're going to, like the Ghost of Christmas Future. This is what you're going to have.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't trade a second in any of the firehouses. I wouldn't trade a cup of coffee for the time I spent downtown. Like, I would do it all again. All the highs and lows.
That's who you are.
And again, that is somebody's going to want to listen to me one day. It's probably not going to be my daughter or any of the guys I work with, but they're going to want to hear when I can say, hey man, this is what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you're going to be better for it in the long run. Everything that happens, good and bad, is kind of shapes who you are, and we'll see what the next couple have to hold for me. So,
amen to that, brother. Onward and upward. You got a lot in front of you, and you're making some big changes, and
I hope so.
Good things are happening. So, Danny, thank you, brother. I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you. Truly, man. It was always good to see you. Stay right here. I'm just gonna sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you. Okay.
You got it.
Hang on one sec. Yeah, you got it. Guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Danny Dwyer. Always fun to reconnect with friends that I just, like you said, looking forward to meeting them this April. Shake a hand, have a beer. It'll be good. But Danny, thanks for joining me. Guys, do me a favor. A conversation like this needs to be talked about. So take it back to the firehouse and talk about it.
Please do.
We're talking about the job. We're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.